Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast. And so I'm going to move us into our film review of the week, and that's Caught Stealing. This is Darren Aronofsky's dark crime comedy starring Austin Butler. You also have Zoe Kravitz, Vincent D'Onofrio, Liev Schreiber, Regina King, Bad Bunny. You've got a pretty loaded cast. So this takes place in New York back in the 90s. That we have a guy, Hank, played by Austin Butler, who, you know, in high school was a promising baseball star. He was all expected to, you know, be picked high in the draft and have this legendary baseball career and had his whole life in front of him. But then a tragedy occurred and he just never really recovered from that. And so we jump into the present day for him, and I think it was 1998.
Yep.
That he comes back to his apartment with his girlfriend, Yvonne, played by Zoe Kravitz. But his neighbor Russ, played by Matt Smith, just over-the-top punk rocker with the, spiked mohawk and everything else. He's got to go to London to see his dad because something's wrong. And they ask him to watch his cat while he's away. And this just escalates into madness because Russ is involved with the gangs and the mafia and everyone around New York. And that brings Hank into it, which it did have a dynamic to it that was, it tries to hit you a little bit emotionally, but it does keep pretty high on the comedic aspects of this film.
For sure. And us giving that premise is not spoiling any of the movie, in fact, but that is kind of the premise of this film. And this film is about, just Hank getting himself intertwined in all of the mess that Russ left behind for him to get kind of mixed up in. So you have him, you see the scene in the trailer of him getting beat up by a couple of guys who are looking for Russ, and it just kind of spirals from that into just an absolute ride of chaos and violence and humor and just a ton of stuff and like drama too. Like there was like a good mix of things in this film that I gotta admit, man, I'd had kind of lower expectations for, despite the cast and the director. Like I'm gonna go in with some pretty low expectations and see if it can match or it exceeded. And I really do think it exceeded every expectation I had of this film. This film was a ton of fun. It was violent. It was gritty. It was dark in places that it needed to be. And I really enjoyed the story that they told in this film. And I really think Austin Butler did some of his best work in this movie. Like he carries so much in this film that he really shines when he gets the chance to lead in this film, and it was just an absolute joy to watch, and one that we definitely had a lot of fun in the theater watching.
Yeah, I had a ton of fun. It was ridiculous and over the top at times, but it kept you, like, nothing really felt out of place with the film. Like the characters are supposed to be a little bigger and over the top.
For sure.
His conversations with his mom that only talks about the
Baseball,
Giants and
yeah.
how they're doing with baseball and everything. And you do get to stay through the credits. You get to see some extra scenes and stuff with that as well. And you get a cat at the center of it all because you get that he's not a cat fan. Of course, you get Zoe Kravitz saying, "I like cats." Like, little bit of a throwback that she's played, Selena Kyle and
Right.
Catwoman and stuff. Seemed like a little in joke there. Like, yeah, I like cats, but everyone did well. Like, it's one that it's the only thing we talked about really with the movie afterwards is that I talked to you that I like that the trailer did give you a solid look at the film, but it didn't kind of give away all the big moments.
Sure.
It didn't kind of give away because it did unfold a little bit differently than I thought it was going to, and the trailer didn't give that away. Like it hit some of the highlights of the characters and stuff, but didn't really show you exactly how it was going to play out. And you get Liev Schreiber and Vincent D'Onofrio as the Hebrews and a funny play of a Jewish mafia gang type guys who were driving an old Woody van, and
Inconspicuous.
it was entertaining. And Matt Smith, playing Russ was really kind of crazy over the top. He had a little bit, and this is just a little spoiler, a little less in the film than I expected to see him in, but what he was in played well, and it worked well for what the story needed to be. It didn't really need his character to be more than what it was.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. Regina King as, Roman, the police officer in this film, she's fantastic in so many things she's in. You get Bad Bunny, who's kind of this I don't want to spoil it too much, but he's kind of like a leader-ish of a couple of guys too that go and pay Hank a visit, and everybody's trying to, it's all around money and who's owed money, right? So it's kind of the central theme of this. They're all trying to get after this money that they feel they're owed, and how they all play off of each other and how they intertwine. We won't spoil here, but it's a ton of fun, man. Like it it kept you entertained throughout the entirety of the film. Everything moved along at a nice brisk pace. This is just under 2 hours of a film, and it's one thing I could really praise the film for is its pacing. Like it takes a little bit of a second to take a breath from some really crazy and serious stuff that happens. Let you catch your breath, have a good laugh, and then you're jumping right back into the mix with action and movement in the story. And like it was just so much fun to watch, and the pacing of it, like I can't praise it enough. Like it flowed so smoothly in this story that it was super easy to follow along with. And I like a good film that when you get done watching it, it doesn't feel like you've been watching it for 2.5 hours. Like this breezed through so quick. It didn't feel like we were in the theater almost 2 hours, which we were, but I just have nothing but good things to say about this movie for sure.
Yeah, and when it went dark, it went dark. I
Very.
mean, there's some bloody violence, there's some torture scenes and stuff in it as well that you have. Like it'll go dark, but I like that and this is a praise to Austin Butler, that he brought the emotion that was needed for those scenes after the darkness. Absolutely. And to bring us back into the comedic elements or bring us back into that darker, more emotional place. Like he carried that very well because he's a guy who just does not have any good luck at all. Like
None.
Everything that could go wrong for him goes wrong, and there's a lot of death and a lot of people around him getting hurt. But and some jokes about his neighbor, because one of his neighbors is always nosy and complaining about stuff. But I've got a bone to pick because they make him a web designer and they make fun of that. Like it's okay to be a web designer for a living. Like come on now.
Shut up, Dwayne.
But like I said, it'll hit you with that darkness, and then it'll hit you with some levity, with some light. Lighter humor, but then it'll get into some that's a mix. It's dark but also humorous, and it balances that really well. Like it sets that tone early on, and it stays within its boundaries. Like it'll crank up the darkness and it'll crank up the humor, but it stays right in the wheelhouse. It never gets too absurd and over the top from what it's been doing. Like it gets absurd and over the top, but it's all within everything that they've been establishing and working with. So I thought it worked really well. Like everyone did their roles fun. There was, I wouldn't say exactly some surprises and twists. It does try to twist and surprise you a little bit, but it was more that I was so engrossed with the film that I was looking, okay, what's going to happen next? What is he going through next? What are we doing next? And it wasn't more that I was waiting for a surprise. I'm just like, all right, let's see what absurd, crazy thing happens to Hank now.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a twist about the midway point in the film that kind of kicks off the second half of the film that
kind of
takes it a little bit of a direction, which you kind of do. But yeah, like this is one that's, you don't have to be shocked or wowed by it, but it just does such a good job of just telling this good story about a guy who just happens to be neighbors with the wrong person and just kind of gets mixed up inadvertently with the wrong people. Just it's like how one misstep can just trigger an avalanche of events, and it's such a good, well told original story here that I got a lot of enjoyment out of. I'm not gonna lie, like I was expecting it to be kind of this quirky film that does a little bit but doesn't. I was surprised at how far it took some of the violence too. Like some of the stuff, it was just unapologetically brutal in certain respects, and I appreciated that for the story that it was telling because it felt authentic. And I think that was something that I really appreciated. Was this felt like a story you could legitimately see happening to somebody in this circumstance. Like it's over the top in personality, but not over this top in practicality, if that makes sense. Like this legitimately feels like something would happen if you got mixed up with the wrong people.
Yeah, and you do have absurdly over the top with one of the henchmen with the Russians who kind of acts like a dog most of the time and can't be controlled, but we've seen that a million times in different films. There's guys and henchmen out there like it, and yeah, that's a situation you could feel like he's just, because it's all about just misconceptions and being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and just just bad luck of things just unfolding the way it does, because it's just it just places those moments so perfectly in there that it's just like, oh, you can see like he was going to go check on the cat and he runs into the mob guys, and well, because of that kind of kept linking and spiraling, and then you realize this and you realize that, and then you get other people involved because there's even more. But even that the core part of the story was an accident. It wasn't like someone was doing anything really badly wrong or anything like that. It was an accidental occurrence that just set off these dominoes for everybody. But I appreciated that, how it told a story. Like it could be one of those more generic mob type of comedy films, but it gave just enough to be unique to what it was trying to do. Like, it's not the most unique film you'll ever watch, but it is for what it tried to do. Like it's a baseball related, because I even questioned you, like, how much is this going to be about baseball? Because we heard going in, all right, well, he's an ex-baseball player who gets caught up with the mob and the crime. Like, okay, is it just going to be a one-time thing? Like, oh, he played baseball. Well, baseball does have a good thematic element all the way throughout the film. And it wasn't just kind of a throwaway part of it, because, caught stealing is a, baseball term and everything else in there. So it kind of wrapped everything up that worked really well. And you said it flowed really well too. Like, there was no real pacing issues. It went from beginning to end in a very smooth, good manner that gave us an ending that was, very fitting for what has happened and transpired throughout the entire film.
For sure. It's definitely one that I hope people go check out and, get to enjoy this for sure. But Caught Stealing is the new film by Darren Aronofsky. It stars Austin Butler, and it's a wonderful, chaotic journey through a guy who just happens to go check on a cat at the wrong time, and everything just kind of avalanches from there. It's the best way I could describe it without spoiling the film, but the film is paced wonderfully. The action is on point. The comedy is mixed in there as well. Like, it's a great, emotionally balanced film that I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 grade for me, because, like you said, it's not a perfect movie, but it does so much so well that it's got a high rewatchability for me. I do plan on going and seeing this again. I may go to the theater even and see it a second time, which is not something I do for a ton of films, but I really enjoyed the pacing of this movie and just everything that we got from it. It was a really fun journey that didn't make me feel like I was sitting through a 2-hour film with how well it was paced.
Yeah, and I agree. It's a well-balanced, solid, dark crime comedy that mixes emotion with some good darkness of death and other things that happen, with action, along with some sillier aspects to kind of keep it as light as they possibly could with telling this. Like, it was a very enjoyable film that I'm giving an 8 as well. Like, as you said, Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, everybody did their roles really well. They all had a certain thing that they had to do in the film, and they all did it really well. The pacing was good. The soundtrack and the score and stuff behind it was, light, but filled it with what it needed to be. Matt Smith was fun for what he had to do in Heroes for Us, being that punk rocker guy. Like, it was just a really enjoyable dark comedy. Like, you've got to go into knowing that it is a dark comedy. It's violent, it's bloody, it's got a lot of darkness to it, but it's got a lot of light and levity to it, which made it a really good film because it was so well balanced.
For sure. And Matt Smith just, I can't not see him in House of the Dragon, and then him coming in a character like this was just a ton fun flip of the switch for me. Just like, I know he's been in other things as well, but having Matt Smith in this as well was just a ton of fun. And also credit to, we didn't really talk about her too much here, but Zoe Kravitz did a phenomenal job for her part in this film as well. Like, she's so good and just playing that kind of moral compass for Hank a little bit in this film, and just wanted to give her a shout out as well. But definitely one worth going into theaters.
Yeah, but Caught Stealing, it will be in theaters this upcoming week. We got an early look at it. We highly recommend you going and checking out. It is a really enjoyable time in theaters to see this film. If you go check it out, come to our socials next week and let us know what you thought about it.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.